We are here together to observe the anniversary, the 69th anniversary of the United States Air Force. The Air Force are presumably about a third of all of our clients are Air Force people, veterans and active service members of the Air Force. So it's important that we understand and recognize that. And we are blessed, as all of you know, our own New Day 5. We have Master Chief Jim Hurd of the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy with us. And of course we have Jim Finch, who is was the 13th Command Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force. Had a fantastic career in the Air Force. He served many special commands, a lot of operational time, 28 years, great family man, great leader, and as I mentioned, the 13th Command Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force. So we're blessed and privileged to have him with us. Thanks. I'll turn it over to our CEO, Rob Posner, say a few words, please.
Absolutely. Well, one, I'd like to thank our distinguished guests for coming here today to celebrate the Air Force's birthday. And I'll tell you, every single day we're on the phone with veteran families, and knowing about whether it's the Air Force's birthday, the Army's birthday, the Navy's birthday, it's all about caring for the veteran families that come here every single day. They call in here every single day. A lot of us never get a chance to meet the veteran families that we serve. But everything that we could possibly know about the men and women that have served our nation, the men and women that are calling us about them, and they're calling us because their family has a need. And that need is that they're either looking to buy a home or they are looking for a financial plan. But to the extent that we have a little bit of, and we do this with our Military 101, but we have an awareness, and knowing that it's the United States Air Force's birthday is part of that awareness is very important. And I think that part of we talk about one of our core values being world-class customer service. Being world-class is just having an awareness, and I think that it's great that we celebrate these things at New Day. I think it separates us from other companies that might serve the veteran community, and I think it's part of our specialness. So, Admiral, thank you, and it's an honor for us to be here today.
Master Chief Finch.
Hey, well, good morning. Thanks for coming out to hang out and help us spend some time and think about the airmen that are represented by the cake that's here, and it's a gorgeous opportunity to spend some time, and I appreciate Rob and the Admiral's comments about the Air Force. Although we're the youngest service of all the military services, and you see on here, it says happy 69th birthday. Granted, on the 18th of September, it was our 69th birthday, and although we've been the smallest time in service, if you will, we've been powered by innovation and technology, and basically we've been one of these services who have built in on each generation, and each generation kind of takes technology and the ideas and capitalizes and turns what has been something that was seemingly impossible to what becomes reality. And when you look at the Air Force, actually we kind of predate this 69th birthday. We really got our start in 1907 as part of the Army with the Aeronautical Signal Corps, and it was kind of started out with one, kind of like New Day in a sense, started out with one officer, two enlisted airmen. Became the beginning of all of this when they tried to learn what powered flight was, and it's evolved over time. And so when you think about the construct, how many people have served in the military and in the United States Air Force over the years, sometimes you look at it, the services by the conflicts that they've had, sometimes it's by the planes, and oftentimes it starts with the Wright Flyer. You see the F-22, and sometimes you think about the people who are air power legends, the Jimmy Doolittles, the Hap Arnolds, those folks, or the people who have been heroes and Medal of Honor recipients like Bud Day and Bill Pitsenbarger, and you can do those and think of those, and that's kind of what catches it. For me, this last 2 weeks has kind of capsulized this. On two weeks ago, I was down at Lackland Air Force Base, which is our basic training, and I got a chance to talk to 754 of our newest airmen who have just completed basic military training, and they're sitting down talking for about a week about what it's like to be an airman, what it means, and what you contribute in relation to the other services. And so that's kind of, I look at that group, and they're anxious, and they're excited about what they've just accomplished and anxious about what the world is going to bring. And then a few days later, with Kirk Thomas last week, we were here at the Air and Space Conference and went over there and happened to have the honor of being in the room with Lieutenant Colonel retired Dick Cole. probably wouldn't know who Dick Call necessarily is, but he's 101 years old, and he was the co-pilot on the Doolittle raid over Tokyo in 1942, which was our response to Pearl Harbor. And so he was the co-pilot on the 16 bombing this mission with 80 airmen who volunteered to go over. Some killed in action, some POWs, but part of all of that. And so you kind of capsulize that. And there have been a lot of talk about the 32nd Set of Tokyo, books and movies about that specific event. But I got to tell you that for most of the Air Force, every airman, just like the other services, every airman has a story. And some of them are little known. And I'll pick out one because we all know where we were on 9/11. Everybody kind of knows where you were on that particular day. Here's a couple of little known facts. The Air Force, at the same time that was happening, the Air Force convoyed a 500-bed air transportable hospital from Langley Air Force Base in Virginia to McGuire on 9/11. No one really even knows that it happened. They set it up because we thought that after the World Trade Centers had been hit, that there'd be lots of casualties and that the hospitals would be overrun with casualties and hurt people. And so we took this group up here because we had the capability to do it. No one even knows that it existed. Another one, quite frankly, is if you've never heard about the Heather Penny story. Heather Penny was a first-generation female fighter pilot. She was first lieutenant at that point in time, and on 9/11, she was assigned to the Air National Guard at Andrews. And what most people don't really know about that is that when the World Trade Center got hit and then the Pentagon got hit on that morning, the first tasking, the vice president authorized the folks to go down and keep any airliners and every aircraft out of the Washington, D.C. area. And so instantly they were tagged. And we had, at that time, the F-16s that were doing alert, we were never focused on internal threats. It was always external. And so for that particular day, they had to scramble 4 F-16s out of Andrews Air Force Base to go up and fly combat air patrols over Washington, D.C. and keep any aircraft away. At the same time that was going on, there was an F-15 coming out of Otis, flying down, screaming down, and Mach 1.3 trying to intercept the second plane before it got there. Not that you could have done anything. But here's the real story that most people won't know about. And that is that when they launched the first 2 F-16s with Colonel Sasseville and with this Lieutenant Lucky Penny, as her call sign was, when they launched out of Andrews Air Force Base going to try to intercept what ended up being Flight 93, which was coming back from and crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, there wasn't enough time to arm the F-16s. So they had no missiles, no guns. And the task was to take down the airliner. And so if you listen to any of the interviews, and you might pull it up on YouTube about Heather Penny and Google that, you'll find that she talked, as they were going in, think about that, they're going en route to try to intercept this commercial airliner, and the only way they could take it down was to fly their F-16s into it. And so her task was to hit the tail, while his task was to take out the cockpit. And they said they discussed whether they could eject beforehand, but then he said the worst case was that you would eject and then not hit it. And so their plan was to just ram those in. So you think about the quality of the people who know that going up there, that's what was going to happen. And I always put myself in their shoes and say, gee whiz, what was going through their heads at that point in time? And the part that's even makes it more interesting, if you will, is that her dad was a fighter pilot, and he'd also been when he retired, he became a United Airlines pilot. He was flying on the northeastern seaboard, and she didn't know if it was her dad piloting that plane or not. And so as it turns out, the heroes of the passengers on Flight 93 took that down and in essence kind of saved her life. So every airman has a story. Not all of them are published and well known. They're not all made into books and movies. Just this last week, I was out at Buckley on Friday in Colorado. That's the people who that control the satellites that watch over the entire planet to make sure that any nuclear, it's the SBIRS, the space-based infrared, they watch for heat signatures. And so there's young airmen right now out there flying these satellites up there. And then there's and I walked into one of these satellite dishes, kind of like a big version of DirecTV. And I talked to a young communications guy, and I said to him, I said, so what's your role here? And he says, well, mine is to make sure that the satellite feed that comes down gets connected to the people over here. And so that satellite dish has got to stay up. And so I'm responsible for the communications. And this is a guy who's younger than anybody in here today, a young airman. And he's responsible for that part of it. And he said, so what happens when it breaks? He says, well, we have to fix it. And I said, well, so how do you do that? He says, well, you can't really go to Satellites R Us because they don't have any spare parts. In many cases, this is like a 46-year-old satellite. So he says they have to fabricate them. And so when you think about what they do, the significance of what he's doing and the role that he plays, just in that one little piece, if he doesn't do his job, then the rest of it kind of falls apart. And it's kind of like that here in New Day. If one person doesn't hold their part of the job and their portion of the puzzle, that we all kind of suffer. So every airman has a story, and I think Jim Cody kind of said it best. We've had 69 years in the United States Air Force, and we've kind of fought from the head up and neck up in many cases, trying to figure out how to make the best, our Air Force the best airspace and cyberspace force we could have. So I thank you for being part of that, and I hope that you will talk to airmen as you do them and the families and understand the contributions and sacrifices that they make, and you're certainly doing a good thing by helping them make their lives better tomorrow than they are today. So thanks for helping us celebrate the birthday.
Should we sing and cut or cut and sing?
I think we should, I guess we're going to sing and cut. How's that?
Okay.
We're going to sing our Air Force, our school song. You bet.
Everybody ready?
Starts with off. Ready?
ahead.
Hold on. Wait for the music. One moment.
Okay.
Go ahead. Hold on. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Atta boys, give her the gun, give her the gun. Down we dive, spouting our flames from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame and go down in flame. Hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force. Thank you. And now we have the cool sword and saber to cut the cake. So we ready?
The three of us.
The three of us. Come on in.
Ta-da.
All right. Enjoy.
Okay.